Cheer, cheer for UCS. You do your best and we'll do the rest. Fight, fight, fight with all your might. We are the Braves and our team is white. Go, go, for our colors bright. We are so proud of the blue and the white. Score, score, score and fight some more. And we'll win this game tonight. Rip them up, tear them up, go Braves, go. Rip them up, tear them up, go Braves, go.
Before I call the meeting to order, would Brother Keith Fox please come forward and lead us in prayer? Welcome.
All right, we bow our heads. Lord Jesus, we come before you tonight, and we're asking that you would touch this body with their endeavors and their intentions as a betterment of this planning session for the community and for the students and the faculty. We would be amiss if we didn't take a moment and thank you for your recent protecting hand upon students, staff, and community members, for your protecting hand. We pray that you would touch this body and lead it and guide it and direct it, giving life, health, and strength. And let the church say, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this time I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item is Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Lauren's not here, so I will read the mission statement. Union County Public Schools creates an inspirational learning environment and empowers our students to reach their maximum potential in an ever-changing world. All right. Next item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? We don't do that.
So moved.
Mr. Gaddis made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Clifton made a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Next item is approval of Chromebook lease agreement.
You did such a good job.
Oh, thanks. Is Billy here?
He is not here.
Okay.
So we approved last month a lease agreement, and then after the meeting, he went to contact them to start the process of the lease, order the Chromebooks, and they were sold out. So he had to kind of go back to the drawing board. Do you have more details?
So he has a different lease agreement for available devices today. That's why
Yes.
he wanted to put it, because they're so fluid, their inventory is fluid, so he wanted to ask to put it on a working session. It's actually, I think the lease agreement was $14,000 last time. This is $11,000.
So it actually turned out
It's a
better.
different model of Chromebook, but it's a Lenovo. Still same warranty and details, so I think it's just a different type of device. And they, I believe they're in free cases, which save $2,400. Is that on the email? So it's,
Older model or something?
no, I think it's just a different model.
Different.
Yes, and
Brand.
it may be that they were refurbished, but they still
That's what I
have the
was gonna
full
say.
warranty.
Yes. That's what I
And
thought.
and Billy felt confident in the model of
Yeah,
device that
I
we're
use
getting.
Lenovo's. I think they're good.
And as of last night, they were in stock.
So we were gonna
So
request for
try to
board
get 'em
approval
while we
and
can.
order them in the
Yes.
morning, execute it in the morning.
Is there any more questions? If Billy recommends it, I'd say
In
it's
the
pretty
lease
good.
terms, what Bill explained to me, everything in the lease agreement stayed the same. It's just the device and the price, all the other terms.
Those are the same computers I use for all my instructors.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the Chromebook lease agreement?
So moved.
Mr. Clifton made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gatton made a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Next item is approval to open U.S. Treasury Money Market, UCB LPL Financial, for BG 23171 bond proceeds.
Yes, so I hope y'all had a chance to review the memo that I uploaded for this item. But on May 15th, we received our wire transfer for the sale of our bond. So we had $13,569,699.03 deposited into our United Community Bank General Fund checking account. What I was talking to Mr. Peak and as far as return on investment of that money, and he suggested we put it into a treasury money market. So it's fully backed by government securities, it's even kind of more secure than FDIC insurance. The going rate, it's variable, and right now that rate is around 4%. Checking and other investing tools are 3% or less.
4.16, I think is what it's at.
So I think it was 4.18 when I spoke to him the other day. So what we'll do is we would put this into this treasury money market, and as progress payments or draws come due for construction, we can just transfer it over to the general fund to pay those disbursements.
That's
So
the
it can sit
Same thing I
there.
did with my CDs, I transferred them into the exact same thing, because it's paying over 1% more.
Yes, and I mean, I don't know, I'm working with Alliance kind of on a production schedule. So we'll have a bulk, you'll see on the regular agenda, a bunch of contracts as well as the direct purchase orders, which where we're getting purchase materials for the jobs that were in the contracts. So we will probably over the next month or so have some expenses, but then until it really comes up out of the ground, especially on the vocational renovation, we should be able to earn some pretty healthy interest income off of it that wasn't calculated into some of the earlier funding mechanisms
That
that we
much, yeah.
provided. So this is just, and I put some benefits, there's a higher yield, you still maintain liquidity, you have flexibility, but there are no restrictions to transfer it to our general fund when as needed. And also, these accounts invest again in U.S. Treasuries, offering high level of security backed by the U.S. government. So that's our recommendation.
It's more secure than the CDs.
So we'll want to get board approval, and then we'll move those funds into the treasury money market tomorrow. So
The original grant money and the interest from it, is it in our general fund or is it still invested somewhere?
it's still in the CD. The CD matures November 1st.
Okay, so it's still churning out.
That's right. And we had calculated, when we talked about all the funding that was available, we had calculated the maturity to interest, the interest to maturity through November in those
Right,
calculations.
yep.
'Cause it was,
Makes sense, because
yeah,
we're not gonna need it before then.
right.
So it's earning how much on the grant? Is it 3 or is it more?
It's more than that, I think.
Uh,
That's an older CD, it's a year-old CD, isn't it? Now,
I'm sorry, I've looked at so many numbers,
I
I
know
don't
that,
know.
yeah, sorry.
I mean, no,
I
I'm
was
not
thinking
expecting this
I was thinking
slide.
it was somewhere around 4 when we got it, for some reason.
and of course,
Been more than 2 days ago though, so.
well, and as soon as I say what it is, no, I just had it.
Here somewhere.
Here it is. 3.4%.
Less than I thought it was.
So it's in 3.4%.
So what it is.
Oh, I apologize, that was the original. So in November of '23, to maximize, we quoted a competitive rate of 5.10.
I was thinking it was.
It generated
I was
an
thinking it
initial
was
452.
At least.
So I apologize.
So we'll use this
That's good.
13 money first.
We have to, because
Have to
this can
anyway.
only be used on the vocational. So, and they're not gonna start on the vocational until January. So it might be, between the window of, we might look at when that CD matures, how can we maximize, make the most of what we can.
What restrictions are there? I read your memo, it said there were some minor restrictions, is there anything?
There might be,
Big watch
it might
outs.
be, we request it one day and the next day it's transferred in, so there might be a day lag in talking with Jim Peak.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no penalty, nothing like that, no fees, it's just, so.
Is there any more questions? Do I have a motion to, the approval to open the U.S. Treasury money market for BG 23171?
So
Mr. Hagan made the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Clifton made the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Next item is approve UCHS trip request Bass Fishing National Tournament.
So this would normally be something in our trip request in the consent item, but they have recently found out that they qualified and the hotel rooms are going fast. So as soon as we could get it approved, we wanted to get it approved for them so they can get that taken care of. So they're going to
Where's the national tournament at?
That's just awesome.
Grand Lake Grove, Oklahoma, yeah, yep.
Is that
And it's
right?
June 24
That's a-
through
that'd be an awesome
28.
trip for those-
Sean called me last night and he didn't know, I and stuff, but I think it's all just come about pretty,
Yeah.
within the last.
Yeah, because,
But they were wanting to do a fundraiser to try to generate money to, help pay for the trip, but I don't know if it's too late between now and Monday to add a fundraiser. Did he reach out to you?
He gave me some, I told him if we had the fundraiser request, we could add it to the Monday night
Yeah.
fundraiser request for approval.
Okay.
absolutely.
I mean, anything that helps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
Something like that, these kids, it's pretty cool.
So exciting.
Do I have a motion to approve the UCHS trip request?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Catton made the motion, Mr. Hagan seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carried. Next item is review of agenda for regular meeting.
You're gonna get tired of freezing
That's a lot, isn't it?
Monday. Or Tuesday night. It's not Monday night.
Tuesday,
It's
that's right,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right, so for our agenda, we
Almost
will
forgot.
call the meeting to order with our pledge, mission statement, and approval of agenda. Our recognitions, we will have Job Corps and our STLP state qualifiers. Any discussion over any of the reports that are uploaded, attendance report, my report, attendance report, personnel report, Victory Technical High School, which is the high school on Job Corps campus, will be their month to present. After the approval of the minutes, we'll go through Amy's financial reports for the month. We'll have the opportunity for public comments if needed. Then we'll go through our consent items. First four are pretty standard. The fifth is the approval for the fundraising consulting authorization for the National Fitness Campaign. Mr. Bosa's here. Do you want to give a little update there?
Do you mind if I give just a little update on the fundraising as well?
Sounds good.
United Community Bank, I don't remember the exact date that this funding came in, but they want to contribute $1,000. Union County Lions Club agreed to contribute $5,000. So that brings us to a total of $178,000 committed to the project. That means we are only $33,920 short. As of right now, we're $45,920 if we want to go with the, I'm trying to think of the word, the better graphics package where we have a lot of
Fancy.
say-so.
Fancy graphics.
Yeah.
Right down there on Highway 6.
Do both those numbers include the installation?
They do, yes.
Okay, that's a separate.
Yeah, the installation is 28.5, so take that out, we are really close.
We are really
If it weren't
close.
that. The fundraising consulting authorization form, which hopefully is in your packet, this is something new that National Fitness Campaign has just started. They're only using it for organizations that have really gotten as close as we have, that they feel like
We're gonna make it.
want to let this fall through the cracks. They are basically going to, it says here, client authorizes consultant to operate as a grant writing and fundraising consultant on its behalf. So a consultant may prepare, complete, and submit grant applications and other documents on the behalf of the client, on behalf of our school system. But the client will have written review and or prior approval of any submissions before they hit submit, or they may just put it in our lap and ask us to hit submit. But what they want in return is 15% of any award that is given. So I think
But they're doing all the work to get that award, right? Sounds like a
so
good
the
deal.
amount of time that you put into
We get
something like that,
85% of the work.
the international paper grant, that was so extensive. I personally, I feel like you should be awarded that grant if you could just complete it. It took, what, 5 weeks, I think, to complete that. And I just think you're digging for information from a lot of different sources to turn in on that. So we are hoping, we still have, we've applied for the international paper, we've applied for Vibrant Acoustics, and when we turn that in, the person we turned it into did respond by email and said, oh, that sounds like a really good project, but we haven't heard anything about the award yet, so, anyway, hopefully that's a good sign. And then, we did get in touch with the hospital again, and again, the hospital doesn't have funding right now that they could just give us more funding, but they did want to know, or want us to at least consider whether or not we would be in a situation that we could accept funding over the course of a 3-year period. In other words, let's say, for example, they wanted to donate $1,000,000 2,000 each year. I told her I just didn't know if that was possible, but I'll work with Ms. Morris and see if there's any
Your
way.
thoughts, Ms. Moore?
I think you have to be careful, it just can't be seen as in some type of loan, because we're,
We're not a bank.
exactly, it's against illegal, we can't loan money, we're not allowed to, so, you know.
Well, hopefully it wouldn't come to that anyway. I'm keeping our fingers crossed on these 2 grants. And then we've submitted a lot of smaller stuff too, to smaller businesses, just hoping that we can get some more $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 level donations. The other good thing about this fundraising consulting authorization, if we agree to do this, it automatically extends our time, because now they're working on our behalf and, they want this to happen for us.
So
That's good too.
I don't see a downside to it, really.
No, not if they're willing to.
Cost the same thing, and we get 85% of what
85%,
they
yeah.
get, so.
Absolutely.
Anticipate what they think they can raise? Can they raise the balance, do they say? Or do they anticipate?
They think they can. I think they're looking at 3 different organizations. They're looking at bigger, more regional stuff than we looked at, with more local stuff. But they think each one that they're gonna apply for, they'll be able to apply for the maximum amount that we need to finish the project.
Good.
Well, and I think they will go ahead and ask for another 50%.
Good deal.
That's all good news.
Appreciate all your hard work on that, man.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
100%.
Probably more than 2 minutes of work, I'd say.
Stretch that a little bit further. Every inch you get a little closer, it's.
I know we were looking at one with or without CT.
Kind of exciting, huh?
We just had-
With CT.
Good. All ready?
Oh, sorry, I forgot I was doing this. Number 6, that is the approval of the Edgenuity agreement. Edgenuity is one of the online platforms that we use for UCLA, virtual school, homeschool. This coming year, they've added a bunch of CTE options, and talking about it with Miss McGraw, she thinks that's a good idea to add. It's a 3-year agreement for $60,000. We did look at the 1-year option just to see, what the differences were. This current year we're paying 17 something, and next year if they want a 1-year agreement, it's 24,000. So it makes sense to me to do the 3-year option for 60.
And their terms are you pay by year, so it's not the
Yes.
full 60 up front.
So,
you
yeah,
pay
it'll
each
result in
subscription
savings over the 3 years, yeah.
You're really just agreeing to use,
To use their
Use them for
stuff for
3
3
years.
years.
What about Excellus? Are we using them too?
Well, yes, we also have Acellus. For Acellus, we pay by the individual student per month. Is how it is next year.
right, it's $79 a month per student. For those students that Acellus is,
How many students do we have on Excellus? Roughly.
we budgeted 25 is what Ms. Hall thought we would be next year. I don't know how many are currently
I don't
using
think we have quite that many on it for this school year, at the end of the school year. It seems to be a pretty good split as far as our virtual students, about half and half.
But we need both, I guess. I guess that's why I'm asking. Edgenuity and
It's
Excellus.
debatable, maybe. Edgenuity is more, it's more cost effective. Also, Job Corps, the school at Job Corps uses Edgenuity also. So to pick up the cost for those students with Acellus would be a lot more. But we wanted to, initially when we started virtual school, we were really targeting those homeschool students, and that was the program they were using, and it's a seamless transition for them, so.
Or just
that
keep them
was
with the
the
same
purpose.
program.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and it's a good program.
it is.
And it's month to month, so if they only are here 5 months, you only pay 5 months of the $75. It's not for the full,
Yeah.
for full school year, just during the time they're using it.
How much is it a month?
It's 79.
79 on pass.
And how many students on Edgenuity?
Roughly.
roughly 120. If we say roughly 100 at Job Corps, it's, that number fluctuates every week. And then all of our UCLA students, besides the, I'm gonna say 15 that are using Acellus.
And I think the high school, Michelle was telling me, Ms. Hall, that they use it some for credit recovery, teachers use it,
Yeah, credit recovery,
homeschool.
summer
Numbers are
school,
fluid.
and
Summer
then
school.
Margie's interested in looking at CTE, adding those options too. And I think from here I can turn it over to Amy.
Okay, the first thing I gave each of you, this is draft and it's uploaded, a copy of the salary schedule. So I figured that's item number 7. What we're proposing, so it's tentative budget time, so the board has to adopt a tentative budget and I actually send that to KDE. So what we did was, just to walk you through, I guess, let me back up. Item number 8, section 7 staffing, so March and April, based on student enrollment, the board approved section 4-5 allocation. So that's certified and classified staff based on board policy. And then we're required to update for section 7, so that's above and beyond. So like the school nurses, interventionists, the CSMs, so that staffing sheet has been updated for section 7 allocation. So that sets our staffing for our schools for the year. So that's item number 8. So when you look at the staffing sheets that are uploaded online, you'll now see a column for section 7. And we also went ahead and completed the Title I column, because those are the number of teachers that Title I provides for those schools.
Okay.
Without the high school, because high school is not eligible for Title I services. So then back to number 7, district salary. So this is what we are recommending to the board. And across the board, 2% increase. Again, with pockets of competitive raise for some of our classified staff. So I've tried to note all the changes in red. So this is the first page of our salary schedule, and I didn't include the cover page. But so for certified staff, teachers, we're looking at a 2% district-wide raise. And Dr. Hancock had a really good idea of at the years in which elevated educator applies, you'll see there's a column to the right of each rank. That's what their annual pay would be, just to make it more transparent, if they fulfill the requirements to receive the $2,500 elevated educator for all 3 ranks. So on the first page, it's a 2% increase. The next page is salary school administration. So the Victory Tech principal position has been reduced, the number of extended days in red, from 55 to 35. And then we just updated a title change just to reflect what Ms. Hall is actually doing as Assistant Superintendent of Alternative Services and DPP. So there were no changes to the amounts on that page. The third page is the sub-teacher salary schedule. There are no changes on this. If you recall, we kind of changed it mid-year. Last year, we did a revision to add some ranks to allow those with high school, and we added a long-term daily rate. The next page is classified staff central office. We just applied a 2% district-wide increase to this page. The next page is classified staff for positions in our schools. So last year, for the first 3 columns, the school secretarial positions and the high school bookkeeper, we did above and beyond competitive raises last year. So this year, we're just recommending 2% for those positions. We took a look really at our instructional assistant. On our current salary schedule, we have 1 column for instructional assistant. So that covers your regular ed and your instructional assistants who provide more high-level services for our MSD students, our special ed students. So before, if they provided like kind of health services, colostomy bags, changing diapers, we provided $1 per hour. Because we bill those services to Medicaid, so we recoup that cost. But just to make it a little bit easier and transparent, we added a column for that instructional assistant 2 for EBD and MSD, and we increased the pay. So for instructional assistant 1, so this would be our regular ed and our special education and just collaborative classrooms who do not provide the health services, we increased the starting pay to $12.50. And an average increase in this rate of 5.78%. To the right of that, but I have a worksheet, so if you actually look how it affects the people that are within those steps, it is about an 8 to 10% increase for those people actually in those positions. Actually, let me get that. I just don't want to speak from this. Well, then I'll go ahead and continue. And then the instructional assistant for special ed, we started with beginning pay of $13.75, which is an average rate of pay increase within those rates of 6.54%. So if you look at our instructional assistants and who we're actually paying and you compare to where they are this year, they're looking at actually an average of 8.24% in pay for the year from where they currently are on a salary schedule. So then the next group of people, positions that we took a look at were our custodians. So the column that says custodian, CSR, we started starting pay at $12.50 and we implemented a 5% increase. And then we did a 5% increase with each of our head or lead custodians at each of the schools. We had a separate column for middle school. We actually just combined that with high school. The space and kind of the number of, they're similar type duties. So, and it affects one person. So we combined that. Again, all those at 5%. We increased our sub-instructional clerical assistants from $11 an hour to $12, as well as our sub-custodians. The next page, our transportation. Beginning with transportation mechanic, we currently have 2 mechanics. They're paid as certified mechanics. So we increased, if you look at competitive rates for a mechanic, a diesel mechanic, we felt like 7% would make that a little bit competitive. They're paid from step 11, 10, and 11. Our transportation bus monitor, this rate agrees to what our regular instructional assistant rate is. So again, starting pay $12.50, an average rate increase of just under 6%. Our drivers, we've done a lot in the past couple of years for competitive driver pay. So we just applied an additional 2% this year. Our transportation secretary, based on the roles and responsibilities of that position, it's like an assistant director position. We have 1 person paid from this slot. We made that pay rate equal to both the manager of logistics and the training manager. On the second page of the bus garage, we changed the part-time transportation mechanic to $18.60 an hour. I'm sorry, I think it was 17 something, 17.90 possibly. Transportation bus monitor, we increased that rate to $12. Stipends for trips. On this year's salary schedule, it was stipends for out-of-county trips only. But we have a handful of trips that are within the county that where our driver is on a bus all day and they're away from any place, so they're paying to eat out of pocket. You know, they might be on a field trip or to Walmart or so our transportation department felt it was fair, instead of having them incur the cost of paying for their own meals, that we extend a stipend for trips, not just out-of-county trips, if they're working within these hours. So it seemed fair. And she said it doesn't happen very often. That's usually your special ed drivers who are taking day trips within the county and they're on the bus most days, so they have some extra cost. The next page.
I have a question, just.
Yes.
I wondered, does every bus have a bus monitor?
No. So we have,
What's the policy or the rule or the?
well, so we put monitors on our special education buses.
Okay.
And so we typically pay from those out of our federal IDEA grant. We have 7 bus monitors.
Yeah.
Yes, 7. And all but 2 are paid from a federal grant, 2 are general fund. You'll see when I do the budget presentation that the bus garage typically the bus garage runs 28 routes, so they have 28 full-time drivers, and we budget 4 positions for full-time subs. So they're 4 full-time people who cover vacancies, driver vacancies. Well, they looked at their staffing and they reduced it to 2 full-time subs. But they requested to add an additional regular ed bus monitor because sometimes there's behavior issues or the demographics of the bus. They wanted a monitor who's not special ed to be able to flow between buses.
Okay. I'm just curious, I know it doesn't apply necessarily. to
Oh,
this.
no,
I've
it's a good
just
question.
I've wondered that before.
Yeah.
You never have asked, so.
Yeah, it's usually special education. This will be the first
Good
year we
question.
have a regular education monitor in this budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are on the professional health services page. So in the past, year before last, we did competitive for all of our nurses, LPN, CNA, and added the CNA column. So we just went with 2% there. So I still put competitive rates, as well as OT and our OTAs. What is new for this year? So this current school year, we have we have one full-time speech as a staff member. She works at Sturgis Elementary, and we have a part-time. She works 140 days. She splits her time between middle school and high school. They're our employees. Years ago, we would post for SLPs, and we didn't have any applicants, so we ended up contracting with the SLPs. So we've had 3 that we contract with, and they cover Morganfield, Uniontown, preschool, and then we have 1 John Paul that's paid through a federal grant for private school. So the 3 that we contract for the public schools, we were monitored a couple years ago, and if they asked us to advertise, and as long as you don't have applicants, then you can contract. Well, this year we advertised and we have applicants. So we actually, so the 3 that we contracted actually applied, and we're gonna hire them as employees. It's kind of an employee contract hire versus employee IRS rules. If they're not in a business of doing SLP services for outside agencies, then they should be our employee, and we pay benefits and they pay taxes, so. But we also had some other applicants or people interested in the job. So with all that said, we reevaluated the pay for SLP. Currently, we always paid just based off step and rank, but in looking at competitive SLP, what we did was we created a new column, because SLPs are not required to have a teaching certificate, so we didn't feel like it was good practice to pay them from page 1 of the salary schedule. But however, we started looking at rank 1 pay, and so we took rank 1, so from like years 8, let's see, 58, yeah, I'm off line 10 down, it mirrors our rank 1 salary schedule as far as amount. However, in the earlier years, rank 1 pay isn't really competitive for SLP pay. So what we do is we looked at what a competitive rate and starting pays of where other surrounding districts, based on salary surveys, start their SLPs. Sorry, hard to spit that out. So this is new. So all 5 of our SLPs will now be paid from this salary schedule. And then we're required to pay them if they have their Cs, a $2,000 stipend. That's required by statute, and then we request reimbursement and the state pays us back for that.
That puts us right where the surrounding districts are too.
Yes. Now, Hopkins County and Christian County, they're larger, they pay a little bit better,
They
but
are a comparative district though.
we're actually really competitive with Henderson,
That's
a
good.
little higher. So,
All positions or just specific?
SLPs,
How are we,
based on their 24.
I was gonna ask that
salary
after you
schedule.
got done, but since you brought it up, how are we looking on teacher salaries comparatively?
Well, and I'll get back to that when
Okay.
we go ahead since you brought it up. So, all I can see is a lot of districts haven't put out their 24, 25. Webster County has. And if you look at just our ranks, their starting pay for a rank 3, 0 years is in like 41,000, maybe like 41,600. They gave her a 3% raise this year. But if you look down the further years, I look at years 5, 10, and 15, we're higher at all those earmark years. But between year, I think 28 and 31, they really go heavy on their salaries. They're at $71,000 for a rank 1, 30 years, I think, right around there. So you really have to, if you look at the top 2 rows, it looks like they pay higher than us. But
once they have about 4 years in, we're paying.
we're even,
Okay, good.
within a couple $100. A lot of times we're higher. I think like on the rank 3, years 3 and 4, they may have been $300 or $400 higher on most years. I don't know specific. And I told Dr. Hancock when I met with her, I said I just didn't have time to do that piece of the comparison. And I was just eyeballing it with Mr. Coble right for this meeting, and he felt really good as far as comparing it to Webster. I haven't had an opportunity to do that with Critton or with Henderson. And Dr. Hancock had a good idea, is that's why we added the elevated educator, because that is a nice, they can now see, well, I'm ranked 2 with 2 years, this year I'm gonna be paid $47,328, if I complete the requirements for the stipend. So-
Well, that's an encouragement to complete those requirements.
Are these, is this based on, if it's a 2% increase, this is all based on?
It's already figured in.
So the nurses, 181 days, is that how many days students go?
Students are 172.
What's the difference in 185 and 181? I just was curious. What?
Well, so the 185, we kind of inherited that years, it's one person, unless we wanted to give her a reduction in pay. But typically she works the teacher schedule, she's a district-wide OT. Most of our nurses are positioned at one school.
So she
They don't
rotates?
travel. So our OT is district-wide, so she does all of the case reports for all of the kids throughout the district. So she typically works the schedule, the teacher schedule, at Morganfield, but she needs the more days for capacity. I mean, we could reduce her, but
So she works so she normally works 185?
all of our teachers are contracted for 185. All of our classified staff, with the exception of the bus drivers, are 181. So that's, I don't have it in front of me, but that's 172 student days, opening day, closing day, how many professional development days and holidays. It gets them to the 181.
Okay.
Drivers are 183 because they have more required training. And, yeah, our managers are 182. I believe are your cooks 182 too, or 181?
Went through 180.
180, okay. So they're kind of all over the board.
Makes sense.
I'll be honest with nurses, in the past few years, I didn't hear it this year, we're advocating for more days, but we were like, well, why do you need the days? And we haven't ever granted them additional days.
I mean, that nurses' pays went up quite a bit in the last 4 or 5 years that I've noticed. I mean, about $7 an hour. I'm looking at this right.
Oh, you are.
Well, the year before last, we really
It's
made
gone
an
up a
effort
lot.
to, because we couldn't keep nurses.
Well, no, we were paying way less than everybody
But
else.
it's getting it back to, like I said, a lot of times, somebody wants to be a nurse at a school, there's a piece of them that wants to be in that environment as well. Because, I mean, as this has went up, so as normal nurses pay, a deaconess, I mean, they're hitting in the 40s now, most of them. So.
But
you gotta
here,
look-
you don't have to worry about nights or weekends.
You get a whole
You know,
summer
there are,
off
there
too,
are some
so,
perks.
I mean, yeah, that's, and some mamas or I guess for that, a daddy can be a nurse, but they probably got a kid in the school or
Yeah.
somewhere around, not too far, so.
Yeah.
But it works out.
Okay, so then on the next page is maintenance and technology. Last year, we looked at our computer tech 1 and 2. So on this page, we just did a 2% increase across the board. We have 1 maintenance manager, and then our 3 maintenance staff, they're paid from the maintenance tech 2. And they do receive, if they have the certifications, additional certifications for like electrical, HVAC, plumbing, pest management, EPA, they are indexed a little incremental amount. So I think all but 1 of them actually have an index. On the next page is food service. So I worked with Mr. Bosall just to try to make sure that we're keeping our food service pay competitive. So on this page, we did 2% across all, except with our food service personnel, the column in the middle. We add an additional 27 cents to get the starting pay up to $12 an hour. And then we increased the sub pay to be $12. It makes it easier because we classified subs typically are instructional assistants and bus monitors and food service, so it's nice to have 1 rate that encompasses all those sub positions for payroll and just so people know what they're getting paid. The next page is,
How's the turnover on that? I mean, are y'all hiring people that's showing, they're the next year and the next year, or is it a
I would
constant?
say 3 years ago, we were really losing a lot of people to Walmart and McDonald's. So we made a pretty sizable adjustment.
Yeah.
And we thought that we were where we needed to be because we held people that next year. And then last year, we started to lose a few again. So we just.
Time to go back to the drawing board.
Tweak it a little bit. this year, we've had 3 people retire just because they've reached retirement age and are ready, so that's not necessarily the same type of turnover. But we're hoping that this, again, just a small adjustment will keep us positioned.
Keep us in the game a little bit.
Keep it in.
Yes, and most of these people are above, if you look, they're above 3, they're really, I think if I remember, like 6 to 11 years. We have a few new people, but as far as your cook, I mean, they're starting to get some years experience, or started when they were hired, granted years experience, so. Okay, the Family Resource Program. So this page, the top box is our Family Resource Coordinators. So last year we added the associate's degree column when we posted our positions, and so we just increased those boxes by 2%. 2 of their grants are not enough to cover salary and fringe benefits, so we're relying on general fund a little bit. And then they're relying on donated funds for operating dollars to run their centers and United Way grant. Down below is our salary schedule for our Apple staff. So we have a director, we have a supervisor, and then this year we have 1 child care assistant. We're proposing this budget to add a second, just to make sure we maintain compliance with ratio. They're already using this person as a permanent sub every day. So as far as, and they have the financial capacity to bring someone on. It's 4.5 hours a day for 235 days. It's not a huge position. So we will have 2 child care assistants. But this rate's been increased 2%. Okay, on the next page, this is our grants program and supplemental salary schedule. Mr. Jackson has spoken to you about the WKU teacher apprentice, hiring some
I
students.
think that's a great program.
So we're required to pay 40% of what a beginning teacher pay is, so that equates to $12.60 an hour. So that's what the top line is. The next red, Project Access Mental Health Counselor. So this is the Project Access grant, the position that you all, I think, did we approve that last month? So we did receive word, so this is, counselors who are part of Project Access, but Project Access will be discontinued in December. So what we're proposing is we want to add it on to the salary schedule at rank 2 pay. And then our school-based mental health grant, our state grant, we're planning on that, continuing that position for the rest of the year. So that position
No
should be
indication that
covered.
it's going away, is there?
Not, I called, I emailed KDE, and it will be funded.
Okay.
So that's $43,000.
Can one of you guys refresh, at least me, on how that WKU teacher apprentice program, how they've got that set up? That's a lot to
I
ask
can't
for
even
off the top of your head.
I know.
So I'll let Mr. Jackson, there's a lot of details to it.
So basically, it would be where students would be, they would be full-time college students, but they would work a few hours a day in the schools, kind of in a row, sort of like what an instructional assistant would be doing, where they're getting, that way they're getting hands-on experience in the classroom while they're studying to be a teacher. We would pay them, the rate that's on the salary schedule. But what the grant does is WKU would actually reimburse us for that, so they're actually paying.
I was thinking of something like that where we got reimbursed for,
Right.
but what better way for them to learn that?
Yeah, and that's a great, I missed that point, but that teacher apprentice, if they're through WKU, they will reimburse us. It's 2 years, is that right?
Yes, for 2 years.
For 2 years.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, so then we added, the next one is special education coordinator.
Let's go back to the mental health counselor for just a second, please. So, is it still being funded then 100%? By 2 separate grants now versus 1 grant? Is that what I'm hearing?
So currently, we have Jason Milliken,
Right.
who is covered, we used our, his total.
Medicaid billing is what I think you said was gonna pay for his or something.
Well,
There was something like that.
He said
We were gonna evaluate it at the end of the year and
That's
how'd that
right.
go?
We're gonna look at it and see how it was paying, and
So-
that's what we were looking at.
You want to go through the project access piece first?
Sure. So currently, we have a, Dasmond Black, already have a mental health, she's been at through Project Access grant, and she's been at the middle school. So Project Access, that grant, if we post it, if we have to take an applicant who's part of Project Access, so. but that grant
And that's
will.
through Greg?
It's through Greg,
Okay.
and it will expire in December.
Okay.
So now we have the school-based mental health grant, which is $43,000 that can pick up, who is currently paying for our Jason Milliken,
Okay.
or supplementing.
Gotcha.
Since he's leaving our district, we can use that grant to keep Dasman around full year. And then there with the residual, we've talked about, we're exploring options of contracting with an outside agency to fill in the gaps on, counseling as needed.
That's what we did in the past, wasn't it?
We have done that before, yeah.
Yeah, Ferris Company, I'm thinking.
So, and I've talked to Fair, and we're trying to figure out the details of if we can make that work again. But going back to the Medicaid billing, that was the understanding from the beginning, but when we, every month we've asked for details and follow-ups, and there's been lots of delays and
Didn't pan out.
it didn't pan out,
Follow-ups from the individual?
yes.
Okay.
And I think the final number was like $3,000.
$3,500, maybe.
What is it?
That definitely didn't pan out.
Do I think that it could produce more than that? Yes. But that'll just have to be something that
I
we
like this grant
get to
route
the,
better.
oh, for sure, for
This
sure.
grant route's a lot better.
Who fell short on that end of that? The Medicaid, or did we not use the Medicaid service enough on the money? Cause I remember the.
I think
dollar
it's a
amounts
combination of a lot of things. It takes a long time to get the paperwork in
were- So it's
place.
kinda on that end of the money deal of it.
I'd say there's a lot, I don't want to get into personnel matters. But I think in the future it could be done better.
I think it was delayed initially. Evidently, my understanding was there's an expanded access form that you have to have parents sign before you can provide the services, but you can't bill. And we didn't realize until December that those forms hadn't
So
been
they weren't-
obtained, so that was one. I think there was a delay in adding the provider for Medicaid billing, so I don't think that we were billing or able to bill. Whether, I think it is cumbersome to get them added, and then there are other reasons it may have been delayed, so we weren't billing until maybe November. And then there was a period of time where billings were behind. So I think it was a combination from multiple discussions of reasons why it just didn't get billed. But we did ask for data. It's not just about Medicaid, like how
For
many
sure.
students we're seeing, what
Right.
other impact.
Yeah.
And there was
That
other
information either.
data that we asked, because it's just not about, it's
Not
about
about
the
money,
level
it's
of
about the
service.
services.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I mean, that's the reason I wanted the service, because I thought it was well worth the money, because those students that need that
For
really
sure.
need that.
for sure. That's why we wanted to make sure that we had Dasman, as an employee for the whole year.
And,
Because
So-
Dasman from the Project Access.
yes, and in learning, I'm sorry, Chad.
No, go ahead.
And Laurie, I spoke with Greg and representatives from Greg, and they had just recently hired 10 mental health, I spoke to her like 2 weeks ago. And they typically all hire a rank 2 pay. So that's why we're recommending rank 2. So when they first become able or certified, they are an LPCCA, which means they're a licensed something associate. They have to obtain 4,000 hours under supervision before they become fully certified. So we
That's like
wanted
2
to,
years.
if this program continues, and Dasman or whoever is hired for this position, and I just use her because she's with Project Access, we look at eventually maybe once they obtain that 4,000 hours, which is probably about 2 to 3 years experience,
Yeah, at least.
move it to rank 1. So if the program were to grow and evolves into that, and we have grant funding or board wants to continue it, that's kind of the path, kind of grow the program.
Makes sense.
So
I'm glad you asked about that, because
So even though his position doesn't really exist this coming year, we still have a person in the similar type position.
What was, and
it sounds like we're in
And then we're
better
gonna
shape.
supplement.
Funding wise, we're in better shape because
Yeah.
of that grant, so that's a lot.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna say,
and-
I like that a lot better than the last time around.
We'll still be able to bill Medicaid. So the position will be fully funded by a grant, and we'll be able to bill Medicaid and get it off and going.
And now that we know some of these hurdles that we went over last year, hopefully it'll be a little bit smoother this year.
Contracting with some outside services too. so-
Yes, yeah.
What was do you remember what his salary was right offhand in
It was
comparison? to-
$55 an hour, I think annualized, it was under 78 without benefits.
And we're already paying the Jazz, what you say?
No, we're not paying her right now, Greg, it hasn't even
But you
flowed.
could have $43,000 grant to use towards hers.
So, let me find my budget sheet. if I've got it
Toward the
here.
second half of her,
Yeah, so here it is, turn right to it. So for half of a year with benefits, and I'm just assuming whoever we hire, I went conservative, rank 2, 1 year experience. So at a rank 2 with 1 year experience with benefits would be $23,516. Our grant amount is $43,095, so that will leave us $19,580 available to contract outside services. And it would just happen to be with FAIR before, we said how many staff, how many visits, how many days a week could you be in our schools? They provided us a schedule, that you on call for threat assessments or emergency situations, so it was outlined in an agreement before. So whoever it might be that we bring the agreement to the board, it may be similar.
Yeah, I think I remember we used Fair there for a while, and they actually come in there and do pretty dang good presentation.
Yeah, so,
It's been a while.
As before I was here.
but the reason we're adding
It's
now,
been a while.
just to clarify, so right now, Greg's paying 100% of her salary, but when the grant kicks in this year, we pay her, they reimburse us, so that's why it's on the salary schedule.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes.
It's a lot, it's like
Appreciate
a lot.
Thanks for the update.
So the next item is special ed coordinator. So currently, in special projects, in a couple years ago, in anticipation of, future retirements, we hired a third secretary. So right now, they had two. And 2 years ago, they added a third to train for Medicaid because it's massive to learn the Medicaid billing system. So now that retirement has taken place, so now they'll go back to 2 secretaries. And that third secretary they added was paid from a federal grant, so it didn't come out of general fund. They used special ed to pay for that salary. Amy Turner wants to restructure that position from a secretarial position. We have a need for a district-wide lead special ed, lead preschool coordinator because of the volume of ARCs and casework and all the
Has it increased
things.
substantially, or?
It's a lot. The third secretary, she was spending the bulk of her full-time
Yeah.
job doing
Just doing
ARCs.
that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So what's in this budget is to use that federal grant. Amy Turner actually was able to reduce one special education teacher based on numbers at an elementary school as well. So we're going to move that to restructure that into a lead special ed preschool position. But then in addition to that, this person would receive a special ed coordinator stipend. And if they are hired, they will be a lead special education preschool. So, and I don't know.
Is that fourth red line?
Yes,
Okay.
and the lead special education for preschool. So they will help, you may speak better, maybe is it district-wide ARCs for the lead?
so
sped?
right now we have a lead sped at every school. This person will kind of be their liaison. Sit in on difficult meetings that they have coming up, mentor other sped teachers, and also learning more about, Amy's job, a little bit of a succession planning there.
As those, yeah.
Yeah.
And the
This is a
current.
new position?
Mhm.
Recommended.
It's actually, we reduced one special education teacher in LBD, so, but it is a new position.
So it'll be a
and
position
they
with
would
a,
apply.
with a stipend on it.
And it's extended days at 210 extended days. The current secretarial position she has is 225, and she's recommending 210.
Okay.
She thought she would start low, and then if the position needed more extended
So how's that
days.
compare to the position that's taking the place of as far as the full salary for the year? Since it's less days, I just wonder if
Well, we're paying, I didn't do the math. Honestly, it's
Oh,
just because
we ask you
it's-
too many questions.
Well, so the current position is being paid from the central office executive secretary salary schedule.
Mhm.
The new position would be paid step and rank from the
Okay.
certified teachers. So if I had to guess, you're probably, I don't know, I don't even wanna guess, cause I don't throw a number out. But I will tell you this as well, and this is why I don't worry, so, every year, there's a thing called maintenance of fiscal effort. We really haven't talked, but every year, the state does this, it is like a 50-tab page calculated workbook. The University of Kentucky actually does this workbook. And you, based on your child count, in a nutshell, you have to spend more or equal to the amount of special education from general fund, state and local dollars in the current year as you do 2 years prior. So if your child count goes up, which ours has gone up every year, you have to spend, there are 4 different tests they calculate, and you have to meet one of the tests. It's called maintenance effort. If you don't meet those tests, you have to pay funds back. We did not meet a test for last year. Now, there are exceptions. If you have staff leave in the middle of the year and they're vacant, that's an exception, and you can reduce your level of effort. And we were $10,000 short. So they do 2 tests throughout the year. They make sure in January, they sent you a letter and you said you budgeted in compliance. You budgeted enough for special ed, you're good there. Then they come back later and say, did you spend it? If you have vacancies, sometimes,
You don't,
There's
because
out of
you
your
had-
control.
because you had that person out of the system then.
so you have a mechanism to say, here are my exceptions, and now we don't have to pay this money back. So when I say she reduced a position, it's good that we're adding it somewhere else, because we can't keep, our child count went up 25 students this year. We
So
can't,
it's spend it or pay it
So-
back.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then what the other residual is, they reduce your federal IDEA funding. So if there is an area where you want to spend more each year, it is in special ed, if you have the child count to support it. And we have the child count to support it, as well as the physical demands on our staff, as far as paperwork and ARCs and all the stuff. I know that's a lot, but, you know, with her not needing the LBD teacher at Morganfield Elementary, having a secretary retire that's been chairing all these meetings and doing this massive amount of casework, this position is valid.
What's the position at Morganfield?
It was an LBD teacher,
Say that again.
LBD,
And what's that? Learning behavior disorder?
I think, yeah. So, okay, the next was just a title change. It was UCLA lead teacher, we just changed it to alternative education lead teacher, so there's no change in days, no change in money. The CTE coordinator, that's a new, so we have a CTE position that we would like to free up her schedule to do more of the CTE administrative work, half a day, and then teaching duties half a day. But with that comes a CTE coordinator position, and we're gonna recommend a stipend in the amount of $6,000 to start, kind of leave some room to grow.
Is that tied into the Edgenuity, helping with some of that too, with that?
Probably with the CTE component.
That's what I was curious about.
There'll be more of a, in this position, we see more as a liaison between the workforce and the vocational programs, kind of
Okay.
meeting their demands, so. And the next 2 pages, as far as our extra service for athletics and extracurriculars, there were no changes on those 2 pages.
Sorry, go back to alternative education lead teachers. That's new?
No, that used to say, it's a change in
Name
title.
Name change,
It was UCLA lead teacher,
okay.
No pay change, just.
no pay
name
change, no day change. It was just a change, so I put it in there. So it didn't look like a new position. Okay, so that's the salary schedule. I apologize if you're getting tired of hearing talk, but a couple of last things. I'm not done yet.
Well, that's one of the most important things we do, is making sure we got the money to take care of our kids.
That's true, and really, I'm excited, and I'll get to it, I don't wanna jump ahead. Because we really do try to keep our pay competitive and allocate our resources, because our people are our most important capital, we say that a lot. So we wanna be responsible, so I'm gonna go to my budget presentation. So this is the Munis budget, it's uploaded, it mimics our monthly report, so if y'all wanna review that. But what I try to do, as I always do in my presentation, is kind of capture the highlights. So again, tentative budget, we adopted, sent it to KDE, So the first page or the second page, just our budget cycle. I know each of you are familiar, so I won't spend, but we'll do the tentative now, and then we'll update it for the working in September, once we know, hopefully know our awards and our tax rate. Okay, so I'm gonna begin with factors affecting our budget, looking at our revenue. So, you know, the legislators have done their part in kind of increasing the seat base. So we actually see for next fiscal year a $260 increase in seat base. So our guaranteed funding per student is $4,586. So in our SEEK, our funding, that is equivalent to a $306,000 increase in our revenue. Our December 1 child count, which sets our funding for next year, again, like I spoke to before, we saw an increase of 25 students in our special education child count. So we received funding based on their level of severity, so that's $247,000 that our revenue increases through our SEEK calculation. So our overall net increase to SEEK, though, is only $454,000. If you recall, the more you get through SEEK, they penalize you for a 30-cent nickel. So the net effect by our guarantee per pupil is $454,000. So that's new revenue to our budget. And $99,000 is a 30-cent local effort deduct. This budget assumes that the local property tax revenue stays the same, so there's no increase in local taxes in this budget. We'll go, another item is our bank bids. So currently we're above 4%. This does include a reduced interest income of 2.75%. So we took a little reduction in our interest income. Our Fund 2, which are our grants, all awards right now, our awards have not been released. So we use the same amounts unless we've received word that we won't receive those grants. So we'll update our grants in the working budget. There was a lot of talk about reduction in federal title programs. I don't know that we're going to see that. So right now in this budget, we see no reductions. We've included no reductions in Title I, Title II, or Title IV grants. This year we did receive Title V grant, which it's a rural income. It's called RLIS, Rural Low Income. We used to get it years ago. We stopped getting it. For some reason, we received it in 24-25. It was $67,000. We already know we're not going to get that grant next year. We didn't qualify. However, we used that grant to purchase a study sync program for the high school at $15,000. And then we purchased Lexia Learning, which is really an important supplemental program for our elementary schools. Our principals really need that program. So general fund will pick up those costs. I know there's a lot of talk with Job Corps. This does not include the impact of our Victory Tech High School closing. However, if it does, based on current enrollment, we would see a $280,000 reduction in revenue.
How many kids do we have enrolled on that versus?
It's like 61 in our ADA. I don't know what our SAR shows. I just pulled our current ADA. So I applied the base to the number in our ADA.
Okay.
General fund revenue, so this is new. You know, food service has been really financially, they have a large surplus built up, so now we can bill, general fund can bill food service indirect cost. So expenses that the general fund pays that cover food service, like insurance or the fact that we process their payroll, we pay their bills, we can charge food service an indirect cost. The state releases those indirect cost rates that we apply. So in replying to the unrestricted cost rate, we will charge food service. You look at their salary and benefits, you can only charge it on salary and benefits. But based on budget, general fund can charge food service $122,000 next year. So that's new revenue into the general fund. On behalf of revenue, we'll receive our current year amounts in July. We typically budget those, but those are benefits the state pays on our behalf. You budget a revenue, you budget an expense, they equal. It's a net effective. It's just an accounting entry. So it's not anything significant. Expenditure considerations. So as we've talked about in the salary schedule, it includes a district-wide raise, competitive raises for instructional assistants, custodians, bus monitors, and mechanics. Good news, the county retirement rate went down 1.09%. So county retirement next year is at 18.62. Unemployment rate, we've really been able to manage for years our unemployment claims, so that remains unchanged at 1%. So we pay 1% on the first $6,000 in an employee's calendar year wages, $60. Site-based Section 6 funding, that's in the Section 6 allocations the board has previously approved. It's at $115 per pupil, so we're giving our schools $197,000 in site-based money to spend for their school needs. Increased special education costs, so costs have increased incrementally, that's general supplies and technology, due to increased December 1 child count. As I mentioned earlier, the reclassification of 3 speech language pathologists from contract hire to now employee status. It includes a structure of the special project secretary position into a special ed coordinator lead preschool position. But also that includes the reduction of 1 special ed LBD teacher at Morganfield as well.
On the SLPs, is that a net positive or negative on it?
It honestly, I think it's a savings. I didn't run a fiscal year, but when we send them 1099s, it's in upwards of $58,000 to $68,000 in a calendar year, which there's not much variance if you look at a fiscal year. So most of them, when I looked at the salary, actually I have that, I have a worksheet. Where I thought they would be on their year's experience. I'm sorry. No, I didn't do a grand total.
That's okay, so you think we're
So
saving money?
and this is just, if one's recommended, one we would pay at $59,000 with benefits, 61, 63, 65. We have one that we employ at 26 years experience. With benefits, she would cost us 70. She's currently being paid from step and rank already. So it's not much of a savings, but
Okay.
probably slight,
Good, that's all.
yes. And we bill Medicaid for those services, so we do recover some of that cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's see. Then mental health position, we talked about that, rank 2, and it'd be covered by Project Access and the state mental health grant. We did include updated, the Section 4, Section 5 has been updated for Section 7 staffing. And then we will continue, I'd just like to put this on here, elevated educator. Currently we have 31 staff who come back next year who will be eligible for the elevated educator. That number has been hovering between 31 and 35. Transportation needs, I just want to give kudos to Nikki Hancock at the bus garage. She does a phenomenal job of planning for our bus garage. It is a big department to plan, but with that, I know I talked to you all before, we were thinking we were going to have multiple bus replacements because of a failure of max force engines, but she's worked out a plan that is ideal. And so based on the 14-year replacement schedule, we only have 1 bus to replace next year, and the year after that 2. So there are going to be some a rebuild of an engine cost, but that's covered by their regular maintenance budget. I mean, not anything extraordinary. We do have a $65,000 truck for a fleet vehicle replacement for our maintenance. It's a 2001 with 200,000 miles. We did buy 1 maintenance truck a couple years ago with our COVID money, but we have 3 other that are all this age or worse. So we're starting to look at replacing them when we can.
Yes, that's a gasoline.
I don't know that we've,
I think they all are dead.
All gas.
I don't know, they use their fuel card, but I don't know if they're buying gas or diesel.
Yeah.
I was just
The new
curious.
vehicles, the new vehicles with gas, there's still a diesel.
Okay. I don't know what they're looking at buying, but I can
Okay, I
follow
was just
up.
curious.
You'll
I
be
know
off state
the diesel's
contract,
gonna
but-
last, I mean, it's a diesel truck's a 300,000 mile truck, where a gas truck, 200,000, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Do they drive those maintenance trucks home? It seems like I passed some of our trucks, like,
They all start at the school closest to them. So our guy that lives in Uniontown drives us home, but also because he starts at Uniontown in the morning. So they
yeah,
all start at a
I just
school.
see them, I've seen our school trucks in places, and I thought, I wonder if they just take the truck home.
I know they're on call, and in the past a few positions who are on call, they take their time, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble or nothing.
No,
Just
no.
curious how fast our trucks,
No,
like,
not that, I don't know.
and I know where Stephen lives, it's, you know, Stephen and that old truck Steve Buckman always drove, it's drip, you know, he drove it for years, the same,
I don't know.
but we're probably due for some new rides.
Well, and that's why when we can do it, we keep them on a schedule, and when we can fit one in, I mean, we're just trying not to get to where all of a sudden we
So
need
you
to
don't get
replace
upside
3 at one
down.
time.
Right.
And it becomes critical. We're evaluating the options, there's a roof repair on the fuel shed, just more FYI, there's not anything in the budget for, but we are gonna have to address the fuel shed. Again, when they were looking at their needs, we reduced 2 full-time driver, which are floating sub positions, but we added a full-time regular bus monitor. So with all the savings at the bus garage, just to let you know, with all those net effects, we actually reduced salary and benefits by like just under $5,000 by giving those raises and reducing those positions. Facility and maintenance needs, we have an asphalt repair plan that we evaluate. So this year, they'll look at the middle school lot, the high school lower lot and circle. We have a mower replacement plan. Morganfield is due for a mower. On our needs assessments, we need some custodial equipment. The boost machine at the high school, that's a $10,000 machine. The kayak at Sturgis, that's a $7,000 machine. And a floor machine at Morganfield is $2,000, so all of those are in our budget. We are looking at single unit replacement plans at Morganfield and Sturgis. So we have 3 units built in at each of those schools. At Uniontown, if you recall, we received a $30,000 grant prize for writing a grant. We're gonna use that grant money to update a rooftop and some individual units. So there's not anything in general fund for Uniontown. We have a unit replacement here at central office. This side is in really bad, so it's $8,000 to replace one of the units
Seems like
here.
this is, ought to be still a brand new building. I still remember when it was
It's
built.
20+ years old.
I know it is, I just, quit reminding me.
I
That's
know.
what I'm saying, it seems like it's brand new to me.
I know. They have to put Freon in it. One went out. We replaced one. It was the one that controlled the front corner and now the middle section. The next section, there's 2 units here that control this and the other side that we'll end up having to replace. And library furniture, if we wait to see the outcome of Job Corps and just how our attendance ends, if our working budget can afford it, we're gonna have some price quotes. Our library furniture is outdated and old. It's been sturdy, it's been good, but we put new carpet in and the schools are asking for some help with some new library furniture. So that's to be determined, but there's not anything in this budget yet. It's more of an FYI. Technology device plan, we've talked about this. We're using grants to double our money to buy student and teacher devices, combo lease purchase plan. So with all that said, our budgeted contingency, I'm gonna start with our FY25, our current year. We are at 2.3 million or 6.51%. It barely budged. We're just under 2.3 or 6%. So I think that, I was talking to Dr. Hancock, when I put it all together with the raises, so we received, 454, you'll see 1,000 new revenue through SEEK. I'll show you the cost of all our salary and benefit raises in a minute. And so to land at where we are in contingency puts us in a pretty healthy spot. The 2% required amount of a contingency is like $1.5 million. So we have some give if Job Corps closes. It's not catastrophic, it does hurt. If we lose title funding, it does hurt and reduce us, but we can weather those types of, so I think that is a great place to be in with the tentative budget.
Well, I still like, so we've talked about this several years, I still like doing, when we can, looking at it and doing the 2%, instead of doing like some of the districts and not giving anything for 2 or 3 years, then trying to throw in a 6% in 1 year, it just creates more disarray with your budgeting, I think, that way.
Yes. So, and I have a slide that shows the impact of the raises and the history that you're talking about. So Fund 51, food service, as I said, 2% plus $12 for cook positions. We do have $546,000 of equipment built in, a new cooler at the middle school, and then new serving lines at all of the schools. All right, yes. So we do not have our reimbursement rates for next year yet, so this is based on current year rates, but typically they're going up a few cents. There shouldn't be any reduction in our reimbursement rates. And then new for Fund 51, it will be an expense to food service, the indirect cost that will be transferred to general fund. And then Fund 52, I mentioned earlier, for ratio compliance, the addition of a program assistant, 4.5 hours a day, 235. And they have a healthy contingency, you'll see that in a moment. Capital outlay, Fund 310, so that's updated with our SEEK funding, we receive $100 per student. Our Fund 320, again, it's updated in the SEEK. And it's also updated because the money, the restricted money, so our Fund 320, there's two revenue sources. One is equalization, state funding. The other is a portion of our local taxes go into restricted dollars. So this fund is used to pay our debt service. So with our new bond issue, now we have a new bond payment. So this fund was updated for the transfer that goes into our debt service fund. So the total amount to transfer to debt service for this upcoming year is $1,245,000. That leads to debt service, so the budget was updated to reflect our new bond issue as well as our current principal interest payments and the SFCC payments. So our total debt service increased $907,000. Our local piece is $1.2 million, and then the SFCC pays $373,000 on our behalf of our bond payments.
How's
this
that
year.
looking compared to what we had projected? Because I know we looked at all that when we were looking at this.
Yes, we ended up not far
I mean-
from where Mr. Salisbury had projected
Okay, so
it. I don't have,
It's in the ballpark.
Mhm.
That's what I was just
Yes.
looking, make sure we didn't get too far out of kilter on it.
well, we updated the BG.
Yeah, I know.
And we actually saw a little upside in it. Was it $15,000?
Yeah, something like
It
that.
wasn't a
When
lot, but
I
it's a little.
presented it last
Yeah.
month. So, to the good. Okay, so the next, it's kind of a busy slide, but I just like to show it all. So if you'll see, it's every year what we've done in the way of a raise. This is the same slide I showed last year. I just added 25, 26. So for the past 7 years, we've given a district-wide 12%, a cumulative 12% raise over the past 7 years. There's 1 year we skipped where we just gave step, and that was in 2021. Yes. Otherwise, we've done 2%. We've given 7 years of competitive classified raises, so above and beyond the 2%. We've looked at those individual pockets and given additional raises. This is our 4th year for the elevated educator and the veteran teacher, new teacher mentor stipends. And then I just put on here what our county retirement rate did. So if you look at the all-in cost of all of the changes in the county retirement on the additional, we're at $567,000. So to be able to have a net increase of your SEEK of $454, and then we generated new revenue indirect cost of $122 from food service. We lost $68,000 of a federal grant that now the general fund's picking up to instructional costs for our schools. We pretty much stayed even with our contingency, and that's no increase in tax revenue. So I think that's the goal. I mean, we have a healthy contingency. We're able to meet all our needs and continue to give staff raises, so.
Is it this time of year we get some projections from Clay, or no?
Well, I call them and I ask them on assessments. I think assessments, we might see a slight increase. I talked to them about a month ago, but not anything. Yeah. And there's no projected loss
Which
of.
group's getting assessed this year? Do you know? Do you remember?
Uh,
I know what.
Uniontown is, cause I
Union
just got
Town is?
mine.
Did you? Oh, you
It's,
looked
it's
at
the
that.
backside of. I'm
They're,
trying to-
and everybody that I've talked to, they're increased. Mine increased about 20 grand, so,
Good assessment.
yeah. I mean, seriously,
Well,
though,
that's nothing to.
I mean, a bunch of them, a lot of people I've talked to.
Raised a few years ago, it's just your time to shine.
Yeah, time to shine,
Hey, I know it was
So
like
friendly.
years
yeah.
to show up, but like how's this tornado damage affect something like that over time? Cause I mean, there's gonna be obviously a lot of rebuilding and, I mean, I know it'd take years and years before that would ever show up.
I guess, I don't know the property tax rule, but it'd be like assessed as a new home? Is there
Yes,
any-
I would
it would
say
be
it
assessed
would.
as a new home.
Yeah,
So if they had an older home and they're rebuilding, it'd be reassessed at a higher rate.
Assume it would reassess on their turn, their time to shine, so. it's
yeah, their time to
like,
shine.
Which I
It
think
wouldn't be
would
yet.
2 or 3
Two
more
to 3 years
yeah.
away, yeah.
So by then, they maybe they're rebuilt,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
But do they wait till they do their
If they
reassessment
rebuild.
of that quadrant, or do they do it at the time you build your house?
No, when you build it,
Oh, yeah,
they
when
do,
you build
because
it.
when I built a
Yeah.
new
So I
building,
feel like,
Clay called me, he said,
yeah,
what percentage is that building built right now? Cause he sets me on the percentage built before I ever
Yeah.
had it completely
We
built.
don't make a tax payment on a building that's no longer there either, so.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It
True.
Works both ways.
And,
but it
and
goes since January 1, so we might get the assessment of their old property this year, January 1, but then if it's rebuilt, I don't know. Good question.
We'll have to ask him that. when we see
Well,
him
and
play.
some of those, it's gonna be a percent of build this year too, like I was saying, cause it's a percent of
Is it?
completion you get taxed on when you're building a new,
I think 17 homes is the last that I have heard.
that are gonna be totally
Total
rebuilt.
loss.
17 houses.
17 total destroyed, 15 major damage, 46 total.
Yeah.
That's homes, not just buildings.
Yeah, not,
Yeah, that, well,
not,
it,
just
Not even
houses.
counting
it's,
buildings.
that's homes, I don't know, at the time we got those numbers, I don't think they had done what the statement said was no businesses were impacted, so I don't know.
There's some buildings, garages,
Like
detached
outbuildings,
structures that
things,
are
garages.
damaged, total losses, but
I'm assuming from that statement that it just meant they weren't impacted to where they were shut
it's
down.
it's a good time to, and I did it, I think, 3 years ago, and I probably need to do it again, but it's a good time to look your policy up on your home and make sure you've got enough coverage. Because there's people out there that are gonna
That
lose
did
their
not.
home and not have enough coverage to get back what they had there to begin with. So, that's the part of it.
Well, I can follow up and ask Clay between now and then. I mean, I'm curious, so to see
Yeah.
how it might
Yeah,
I
affect
feel
the
like he
timing.
comes to a meeting about this time of year, maybe it's later this
I
summer.
was thinking it was right at when school came back, but yeah, he comes sometime during one of these budget hits, and
Well,
I
I
think it was the
always-
second one.
I had to call, I didn't call him, I went by there, just to ask him what he thought assessments, because typically February, March, it was in early March. He's sending his certification to the state, so. Okay, so the next page, our tentative budget by fund is just a visual, all the red are all the funds we're restricted, so we have almost a $40 million budget, but only 29 of that is our general operating. So, and 75% of that's salary and benefits. So you'll see, that's just a visual. The next page again is the numbers. So you'll see the way KDE looks at it, they look, the way the report, the munis is, it does total budget excluding debt service. So you'll see kind of towards the bottom of that column, 37,892,000. If you add our total debt service, our total budget is just under 39.5 million. There's our contingency, 2,295,000, 6.06%. A 2% required is 757. So you can see the excess above the required 2%.
Contingency calculated on debt included,
I'm sorry.
is the contingency amount calculation on includes the debt service?
No, so contingency percentage, I put excludes Fund 2, 21, 360, and 400.
Okay, thank you.
Because there's no that's money that's given.
Gotcha.
Okay, so then the next few pages, I won't spend a whole lot of time, but I just kind of like I said, if you feel free to go through the munis, I just try to consolidate it. So general fund revenue. One good thing about general fund revenue, it's always been a conversation, is what SEEK looks like compared to local taxes. So again, that SEEK base, you can see we're at 9.9 million of SEEK. Our local taxes is 8.8. It was about to where our local tax was about equal to or more than the SEEK funding. So it's good to see that shift in funding per
It was right there at the same before 2020.
Yes. So total budgeted receipts, 26,265,000. And then on the right-hand side, where do we spend our money? So 18 million goes back to in student instruction and support services. Also, student service is transportation, which is 2.3. And then the other heavy hitter as far as operation, again, is facilities, 2.9. So our total budgeted receipts, 29 million. And that includes contingency. Salary and benefits, they always say 80, is it 80 or 85%? I think it's recommended 85%. I told you 80, but it's 85%. But if you look at salary and benefits, as a percentage of our overall budget, we're sitting at 74%, which is pretty good. The next page, just special revenue grant funds. So our Fund 2 total budget is $2,873,000. About 50% of that's federal, 50% is state grants, 50/50. On the left side is our revenue breakdown. The right side, how do we spend our grant, which is what I report each month when I give my financial report. So 84% of that's directly back to student services, and 10% is for community services. So, and then down below are just some of the grants that we receive. The next is just a table. Probably the most important piece of information on this slide, on the right-hand side, are between federal and state grants, they provide 37.5 positions. 20 are provided by federal grants, 17.5 by state grants. And the only other thing if you look at the graph, just something to note, the left-hand side cluster of bars are state grants, so you can see kind of over the past several years, we've seen an increase in state grant funding. On the right's federal, that tall red bar is ARP ESSER funding, that's why it looks funny. And then you see though that our federal revenue's
Looking
kind of
for
been
it,
going
it's falling
down.
off.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I see it.
So our state is our state grants are supplementing slight reductions in federal, but nothing catastrophic. The next pages, capital outlay and FSPK, I kind of went over those on earlier slides, but it just gives some information on how they're funding, and then it actually gives you the dollar amounts in each of those budgets as far as revenue and expenses. So capital outlay is funded at $100 per pupil. That fund is restricted for facilities, so when we have, and you'll see we're looking at elevator repairs, boiler maintenance and things like that. That's what that money is budgeted for, repairs and maintenance is restricted for that. On the right-hand side, that's what pays our debt service. So that's the revenue and the transfers to a debt service. The next page is our debt service. So I've just shown all of our outstanding bond issues. So if you look at the grid on the total right, down the bottom right-hand corner, our total debt service budget is $1,588,000. The column directly to the left of that is SFCC. So the SFCC is paying $373,000 on our behalf in debt payments. And then the rest is local principal and interest. And then the next is budget for food service. So again, we project, using participation, student days, we project our federal revenue for food service. It's a little over $2 million. I presented food service a little different as far as operating expenses. I included his contingency. So we're looking at $1.7 million after his equipment purchases and contingency. So that's why his budget expenses show, it includes $4.1 million because it includes that contingency, yes. The next page is just our Apples program. So $193,000 budget. You'll see even with adding that program assistant, we still have a little, just under $42,000 in contingency for our Apples program. And then the last page, currently, as far as large capital needs, in addition to the construction, we're looking at elevators at our middle and high school. It's critical, at least one at each spot. And the next critical need are boilers. So we're working with engineers just to evaluate those and see what our options are. So that's a lot. I know I've talked a lot.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the budget's
It's a lot of
uploaded. I just hate to give you all too much detail, but I
No, I like the way you laid it
I
out,
want
because
you
I
to
can
be-
actually go over this and still understand it after we leave here.
Yes, and I just have a few more items, please, unless y'all just want to check.
No.
Did you
No,
put a
whatever.
school board member's raise in this budget?
I do have one thing that we didn't mention in this, I was curious about, is I know we talked about it, we're looking at getting two SROs. Are we looking at having that incorporated in this budget? Will that be in September, or are we still?
Well, they're in our grant budget.
Okay,
So,
in
I'm
the
sorry, I
grant
didn't,
budget,
so in
okay.
the grant budget, we have, it's in a state grant. It's funded
It's
through.
included in that then, okay.
Yes.
I was just curious, because I didn't see it listed.
Yes. So we
Well,
have,
they powerful. I said they better have it, they've hired it.
so it's,
That's why I was kind of wondering, yeah.
it's in
Rainy
the budget
bird.
detail.
Really? Cool, that's awesome.
It'd be a great thing to see in the start.
Yeah, they're working on the second one.
No clue. I must live under a rock sometimes. I don't know, it's like, that's my phone rings.
That's what happens when you work on ours, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
put a bunch of
might
them.
stop by Mr. Yarber's house tomorrow and drop
Oh, I
out
have
and check
his-
on him.
Packet, yes.
I see some other stuff for him, I don't mind taking it.
Actually, that was his copy I was reading from, so, yes. Like this and this.
I about took Miss Catley with me to work the other day.
These are the
She was
three
taking
things
pictures.
that I.
Thanks.
And, You may remind him, Greg, that
We,
if they get this
I dropped you
uploaded,
off when
if he
Terry
wants to listen to
got
our
out there, so
conversation
I-
and everything, he'll be able to watch it
Right.
too. That'd be a good way for him to get kinda caught up on all of our discussion.
And I'm gonna reach out to him, cause that's a lot of information
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
to
it is.
absorb. I don't know if he can watch the
Well, he's
recording
new to it,
maybe,
so, yeah, it'd be
how
great.
good the recording is, but, okay, so just to go through the rest of these, item number 10 is actually Amy Turner provided. It's a contract we do for orientation and mobility services through the Evansville Association for the Blind. It's a contract we have every year. It's the same. It's updated for next school year. Renewal for student accident insurance. So I don't know how this is the only insurance, but this is probably the third year in a row that our rate has remained flat. So I'm sorry, I don't have that pulled up.
Who is that with?
It's through Zurich, and it includes, John Roberts, our rep, included a cover, so it is, flat at $21,575.80, and it does include the $7.5 million catastrophic, policy. It's with Zurich American Insurance Company. So that's a renewal for next school year. I'm gonna come back to item number 12, the bank bids. Items 13 through 24. So these are the actual contracts for all the contracts that were previously awarded. The actual contract itself are scanned. So those amounts you've seen, it's just the formal contracts and the direct purchase orders for each of the items that we have on DPO. So I will not take time unless you can read the descriptions and all the various bid packages. There's one bid package for a contract we did not get. Alliance did not get it from the contractor, so I guess that will be next month.
What was it?
Yes, it was from Premier Electric.
Okay.
So I guess it was electrical, and all their subs. And then the last two items, so Dr. Hancock received a phone call from Mayor Adams. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think we've talked, I don't know if we've talked about it enough or not, but
Is this a tennis court stuff?
tennis courts, they started a fund. They now have enough money in that fund to purchase the tennis courts. So
Great.
our next steps is to surplus.
That is great.
I know. I put money in the
Yes.
I'm happy. They deserve that.
What'd you say, Donnie?
I see, I know, I was one of the ones that asked, I put some money in the fund.
I think that's
So
awesome.
are they being sold or?
So tonight we'll declare them, or not tonight, Tuesday we'll
Tuesday.
declare them as surplus, which is our next step, and then we'll get with KDE, or we'll get with the probably city attorney.
I
We'll have to
will,
draft a purchase agreement, and our attorney will have to approve it, and KDE will have to approve it, and then we can sell them at the appraised value.
I will say that I think most of our preference would have been to just give it back to them, but KDE
that
would
was-
not let us do that. They required us to have
Right.
to sell it for
There was no
value.
option.
If we'd had a choice, we'd have just given it back to them.
So we're trying to get through that as quick as we can
Good,
because
yes.
they're wanting it quick
They knew I
because
felt-
they have plans
And
for
they
it
knew I
too.
felt guilty about it, that's why
Good,
Is it the
good.
city that's doing
The
that?
city, yes.
it is.
That's wonderful.
So maybe by our next working session, June board meeting, we'll have a purchase agreement and all the steps to actually
That would be a pretty quick turnaround.
go
Yeah.
with the
It would,
sale.
it
Yeah.
would.
Maybe. So,
Keeping our
There's
fingers
a
crossed.
lot of red tape between us and everything.
It's kind of
Trail.
needless red tape, but it's red tape.
Yes.
and then item number 26 is just, it's a NOAA basketball agreement, and it's something that Coach Smith and Quade Gerton have asked Jeremy Tackett as athletic director. It's, they're gonna pay for it out of athletic funds at the high school. I don't know what the NOAA basketball system does, I'm sure it's something for, anyway.
Actually, I don't know.
Pretty basic. And then my last thing, we'll come back to the bank bid. So we advertised that we were soliciting quotes. Every 2 years, we're required to bid out our banking services, so we actually only received one quote. And what the, I've uploaded the response to our solicitation, but what I really wanted to share with you, and UCB asked me to share with you, is the letter,
Yeah,
the
that's
cover
it.
letter of what all they do to partner with Union County
Yeah.
Schools.
I read that before we started
It's
this.
this.
Yes, and
Yes.
it is pretty. They are wonderful partners, and what
Yes,
all
they
they
are.
give back to our district is phenomenal. So, from everybody at UCB. They've been really great. So I was glad that they responded. So I kind of solicited bids a little different. Typically, I've always, when we bid banking service, a fixed rate, but I mean a variable rate. So you take the Fed funds rate plus or minus basis points, typically is how they did it. I went ahead and added a fixed rate option just for us to evaluate, because I don't know what interest rates are going to do. I know they've declined slightly, but I think they're forecasted to come down some. So they responded with the variable rate would be Fed funds rate minus 145 basis points. So if the Fed fund rate is 4%, minus 145 basis points would be minus 1.45%. So that's there. Subject to a 1.75% floor. So whatever the Fed funds rate is minus 145 basis points would be our variable rate. Right now, that would give us about a 2.75% rate. Or we can go on a fixed rate of 2.75%.
What did you say the floor was on the variable rate?
Well, the floor is 1.75. So we'll never go between one, if we go with the variable, it's Fed funds plus, Fed funds minus 145 basis points, subject to a 1.75% floor. I'm recommending, that would be my recommendation to the board, is maximize
What is the fixed rate?
2.75.
And how long is that?
After the 145 points,
Maximizing
what's the
the
variable rate right
variable.
now?
So
Is that what
right
you're
now,
saying?
the variable would be right at about
Right.
2.75.
That's what I was gonna say, I thought you said the same thing for both of them.
I'm sorry, it is. That's what it would come out to. So
Mhm.
right now, based on Fed funds,
You would
minus
recommend variable.
145, we would be at 2.75.
Right.
But that rate could fluctuate,
Yeah, it could go to 1.75.
but it would never fall
But
below
below.
We're
1.75.
projected for it to go down right now.
Right.
That's option one.
Mhm.
Or we could do a 2.75 fixed rate for the
fixed.
duration. Since there's 1% rate of interest isn't huge, if you're at a 1.75% floor, you know, if interest rates, what that would do is if interest rates were to go up or
You
stay,
would lose. You would lose it, yeah.
yes, if we go with the fix.
Mhm.
What's the duration timeframe?
So it's for 2 years, and we could do an option to renew a year after that. So we can look at it. So it is for a 2-year duration.
What's our current?
We were,
Are we fixed or?
no, we're variable. It's plus or minus. It is. I'm sorry, I should have looked that up before we came in.
1.75 floor on the variable.
Oh, no.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. While she's looking up, I can tell you that for the number 27, which is the last thing in the consent, we have a petition for early kindergarten enrollment. So he's under the age that for normal enrollment for kindergarten, but he's passed the test to prove that he's ready for kindergarten. So that's what that is.
I thought we had like 2 or 3 last year, but I don't think any of them tested.
That
Yeah.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Who's younger than kindergarten age, is that what you said?
Yes.
Everybody tested above readiness.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, last time it was 50 basis points, a floor of 1%. So now we're a floor of 1.75%. And on our August or our April bank statements, I can tell you what we currently were just yielding. Sorry, I didn't have that.
We can tell you haven't been doing anything else.
Yeah. I don't even think you've been sleeping, quite
I know.
honestly.
I don't know how she does it.
Man.
That's her wheelhouse on that.
Mhm.
So on our April, we were at 3.76%. That's what we earned during the month of April. So that's why I just hate to
That's why
fix
you
this
like
in.
Yeah.
Because this takes effect July.
2 years. we're talking 2 years
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta remember that too.
There's
I don't know
more,
what's gonna
there's
happen.
more potential upside than potential
Yeah.
downside, is what you're saying.
But what I will say about UCB, I think even after a year, if we go, they're very willing and generous to work with us. If we wanna revise the current,
They probably,
I really
They would
think
let
that
you.
they
they would let
would.
us.
But it,
Because when we opened this US money market, they didn't make it subject to this,
Oh, okay.
you know, so. I think even when we renewed the CD, rates had gone down, and I remember the conversation now, and they still gave us a 5% rate. They're great partners, they wanna see us be successful. So, and most all our staff bank at UCB, so we give them a
Right.
lot of business with their direct deposit.
Yeah.
Too. But, so that's my recommendation, is to go with the variable.
I'll put a little plug in for them. I read their letter, they were talking about the debit cards. I don't know if y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
But if
neat.
you do, you need to get one of these cards.
That's cool.
It's pretty cheap, but it's, shows your.
I like
county
it.
run.
But they
and
also give
donations
money
go-
to the school.
Yeah, donations.
Yeah, part of that,
Right,
yeah,
part of it.
sure
It's
does.
$5 or something.
You can get checks that way too, for anybody that still writes checks.
So, all right, thank you all very much for your patience.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work that
Yeah,
they
thank
did.
you.
Okay, so we reviewed the agenda. Next is general discussion.
You got Amy's paper for about
Yes.
graduation.
Yeah, I
It
appreciate
starts at 6, but she'd like for us
Right.
to arrive at 5:15. And the reserve parking will be
Around the school.
all the way around,
Right.
up
Yeah.
against this.
I'm gonna take advantage of that this year. They used to give us front row at John Arnold, that part, a mile away and walk, but I'm not
Same way.
walking from the middle school.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We'll go all the way
So
So
you
around.
don't
back.
all
we'll
the way
park
around
there
back?
and then walk outside into one of the gym doors. One of those will be open for us. And then they'll tell us what to do from there,
Right.
as long as we can get there. I also printed out, for my summative evaluation, I just printed out what that paper looks like. I don't know if y'all want that now to look over for a couple days or not. Or you
If
just
you got
want-
copies,
You
I'd
got a
like to
copy,
have
I'll
it.
take one. Did she send I think she says in here a copy of the program for graduation. Did you have a copy of that?
I did not get, and Mr. Jackson had to leave.
That's okay, well,
But
I'll email
no.
her about it. I'll ask her.
Yep,
There's a copy there you
I
can-
apologize for that.
Try to give you, this will be probably new.
They did announce our new student board rep today at the last day of school,
Oh.
but I'm gonna keep it a secret and I'm gonna let
Oh,
Lauren
that'd
tell
be
us.
good.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be good.
Just a quick Job Corps update that I just got. You know, Mr. Barton, who used to be the center director
Yes.
here, he is in DC currently, and he said that the congressmen have said over and over how their emails and their phones have been blowing up with everybody saying, you know, you need to save Job Corps. So they wanted me to give one more plug. If you haven't contacted Comer, McConnell, Rand Paul, please do so quick as you can.
Who's that from? That information? Oh,
It's my inside
I'm
source.
sorry. I was talking to her when you started that, I didn't hear what you said. So I was asking who that was coming from. That's fine.
That's all I have, ma'am.
Is that all you got? Yep. Anybody have anything else? I think we've covered a lot tonight.
That's a lot. Yes,
All
ma'am.
Well, I guess we'll see you tomorrow, right? Maybe. To have a motion to adjourn?
Congratulations.
So moved.
Mr. Gatt made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Clifton made a second.
You
All
don't
in
wanna leave
favor?
tonight?
Aye.
Oh, I mean, we're
All right.
Motion carried.
You do your best and we'll do the rest. Fight, fight, fight with all your might. We are the Braves and our team is right. We are the Braves and our team is right. Go, go for our colors bright. We are so proud of the blue and the white. Score, score, score and fight some more. And we'll win this game tonight.